Welcome back to the Music Maestro Podcast, a behind-the-scenes look at the music industry. Today, we have a seasoned expert in artist management with a career spanning over 2 decades. He's the owner and director of Old World, New World Management and has played pivotal roles at ATC Management and 360 Group, guiding the careers of numerous artists with a wealth of experience in navigating the complexities of the music industry. Please welcome the legendary Matt Stuart.
Greetings. Lovely to be here, Daniel.
What are you saying, mate?
How are you?
I'm really good, man. I'm so glad to get you on here finally.
I'm glad it's cold in here. It's very hot outside.
Well, to be fair, I got Nikesh to put the aircon on about an hour before I thought we were going to start, which was actually 3 o'clock. It's now 5:15, but whatever. That's your fault.
Sorry about that, mate.
So, a lot to talk about, mainly based on your career, the world of artist management. We had Stephen Brains on
Frenzy
last time, and he kind of gave us whilst he's got a lot going on with He, She, They and the event and I guess the diversity that brings. It's the management that I really want to home in with you. But before we get into that, let's talk about your earliest music memory. Where did you grow up, by the way?
in Liverpool.
You're Liverpool.
Yeah. Big Everton fan.
Okay.
Get that in there.
Okay, well we'll get that in there at some point. Don't worry. Towards the end. So how did the music thing come about for you? Where I guess
In terms of wanting to just be in the business.
No, I mean you know where you kind of when you're young and you kind of you're either I guess whilst I always say most people are into music, but some people are into it more than others.
Just clicks.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
some are like fanatics, and like that's how I see myself when I was younger, and that's ultimately why it became a career for me.
Yeah.
For you, like, what was it that kind of?
Pretty much the same. I remember just being infatuated by rock stars and songs from a very early age.
Such as?
God, I remember going way back down when I'm like a toddler.
When were you born?
1977.
Oh boy. Okay.
I remember Adam Ant being all over the radio, and I must have been 4 or 5. It was the early 80s, and just being like, who the hell is this guy? And then rolling into Michael Jackson and Prince and throughout the 80s, and then sort of, I probably the 80s are incredible. I probably appreciate the 80s more now than I did when I was actually in the 80s, because I was probably a bit too young to appreciate what was going on.
Right, okay.
Now I love 80s music. And my real sweet spot was probably, I remember a real pivotal moment being at my mate Coles, because his mum had Sky TV, one of them horrible grey Sky dishes that looked like a pimple on the side of the house.
Yeah.
And because no one had it then, no one had Sky, unless you the Forshaws, Sandra Forshaw and Pete Forshaw had it, so Collard was round. They had this thing called MTV. I was like, what the fucking hell's this? Oh, can we swear in here?
You can swear, mate.
So what's going on here? Like, Cole's like, there's a channel called MTV and it just plays music videos. Like, all right, let's have a look. And I just remember having my mind blown in like 1991 and just being like, what's this Nirvana business and this Soundgarden and Sonic Youth and all this, predominantly American at the time. Sort of, it must have been a grunge show, Dan, but it was just an explosion in my head that went, wow. And I remember vividly, when I was in upper school and high school, just loving the NME magazine and couldn't wait for the wedding. I think it was a Wednesday it came out. I couldn't wait to run over to the shop, get the NME and read it at lunchtime. And just, it was like biblical to me. It was almost like what the NME said, and it got it wrong many times, still does. But what it said to me was like, I've got to be into this. I've got to what it said was like a bit of a guide to me.
Yeah. A Bible?
Yeah.
Of sorts?
Of sorts, yeah.
Yeah.
It was biblical to me, because now you've brilliantly got 1,000,001 ways to discover music. Back when I were a lad, you'd have about, I think I had like 4 or 5 things that would tell me what I should be listening to. One was the NME, one was Q Magazine, one was MTV over at Sandra Forshaw's house. And there was like the chart show and Top of the Pops maybe, and I'm probably missing something else, but that was about it, Dan. Maybe a Radio 1 John Peel or whatever, but I wasn't for some reason a particular radio listener. It's more visual side for me. So those are the sort of things that got me into music and really honed in. I remember vividly being a prefect in school and sitting overlooking the main yard and reading my enemy and just thinking, I want to be in the music industry, but I have no idea how. It felt like a distant land that I couldn't get to. And I think growing up where I did and how I did, in my head I always wanted to go to university, not for, I think just to basically stay younger for a bit longer. I couldn't be asked getting a job and growing up.
Okay.
So this is actually a really important part of this whole story. I remember just couldn't find a course that I wanted to do because I wanted to work in music. And I remember being we were doing work experience and everyone was getting allocated things like in a world they sort of wanted to be. And I remember telling the careers teacher, Miss Shearer, I want to do something in music. And bear in mind, for being from Liverpool, there's probably things going on in Liverpool historically. There's been a lot of music stuff, still is.
Yeah.
She could have got me doing, I don't know, a T-Boy in a recording studio or something. I remember she got me like, I was like in the council offices, franking letters. I was like, this is definitely not the music bit. And then my business studies teacher, Tom Lacey, came in and goes, listen, I found a new course for you in Buckinghamshire. He goes, and if you pass your A-levels and get this, they've started this music management degree. And truth be told, Dan, I got on it because I was like, I want to go to uni and in music. It was just outside London. But it's probably at that time a bit of a tin pot course. No disrespect to it because it got me in the game. But what that course is now is a much bigger and better thing.
Well, do you know what's strange? That your story is very similar to mine in that sense. In that I knew quite early on that I wanted to be in music just because I loved it. But like you, like when you're outside, you're young and you're out, you don't really know what the music industry is. You don't know what that means. It does feel, like you said, a distant land.
Yeah, it was.
But I remember being at college and trying to pick where I was going to go next for uni. Yeah. And I landed on Bucks Chilton's and I found this music industry management course and I was like, and it was the only one I think at the time that offered that course, and I thought, but that's it.
Well, that's the same. I mean, I think turns out, Dan, I think you and I went to the same building, but it was called different things.
Yeah,
then.
yeah, no.
See, I'm quite lucky. I got a Brunel University degree.
Yeah, so I've got a Bucks Chilton's.
Yeah, Brunel stopped the partnership the year.
Brunel does sound more prestigious, doesn't it?
Well, it's, but everyone thinks when I say, have you got a Brunel degree? I'm like, absolutely. I'm not an engineer though. I only got a 2-2 because I discovered lager heavily.
What's it? So it was pre-uni that you knew you wanted to be involved in the music industry, presumably. I guess before we get into your career then, what do you know where it was exactly where you wanted to kind of get in? I guess you've got a variety of experience within your career, but artist management seems to be the kind of genre that you fit into. When did the artist management thing become the kind of path that you wanted to go down?
That would have been later on in my career. I remember I loved, it sounds weird this, I loved the term record label. Yeah. It was quite sexy in a way. Not sexy like sexy, but just like quite, I don't know, record label. He works for a record label.
Yeah, definitely.
And I remember thinking, that's fascinating. And I remember having this big idea that I wanted to work for a big record label and all that. And over the years of being in various record labels and predominantly on the independent side, sort of realising that management was ultimately the central fulcrum of an artist's world in terms of you're dealing with everything. You're dealing with the record labels, the publishing companies, the live business, the agents, the building aesthetics, building creativity, building everything. But whereas the record label had divisions within that, there was all many different things, but the management was part of everything. I think that really excited me about developing things in a holistic way around everything,
Okay, so it was only through getting your foot in the industry that you decided that the artist management was the one you wanted to pursue, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember probably, I don't mean to jump around, Dan, you tell me if I'm going off piece here, but I remember when I was in this course in university and it started first year, and I remember it just being, it was essentially like a business course, but with the word music chucked in now and again. And I was thinking, shit, I've dropped a bollock here. This ain't the music biz. And they'd wheel out some old fella who'd, I don't know, known Phil Collins once or something like that to do a little talk. And I remember just being like, wow, this is interesting, but like, is this the music biz? And then I remember at the start of second year thinking, oh God, I'm this has to get better. And I guess, I remember, I'll never forget, this other student came into the lecture hall and she said, there's a work experience place going at Sony for 2 weeks. And this is the launch pad for me. I didn't realise at the time. And everyone wanted to do it. It was 2 weeks working at Sony Records. Like, wow, there's the promised land. I'm getting closer.
Yeah.
So I went up to the course head. I just remember, I forget his name now. I just said, listen, mate, I need this. I said, if you give me this, I'll smash it. And he goes, well, we've had 60 people. I said, I don't care. I said, I need this because I'll smash it. Anyway, they gave it to me. and it was for Sony S2, which was at the time an imprint within Sony, which was then on Great Marlborough Street in London. I remember coming into town on that little train from High Wycombe into Marylebone and being like, oh, I'm a bright lights, big city and all that. Went into work at Sony and essentially just offered to make teas for a couple of weeks. But it was Jamiroquai's label at the time, bands like Reef and that and stuff. But it was having a moment. It would have been 1997 when I was there. And I loved it so much and just got involved so much that they kept me on for 2 years, Dan. Whilst I was doing my degree, for 2 days a week, every week, working for Sony for 2 more years. And that was where I really started to understand the workings of this mad industry, or certainly the record label side.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like, I always think, and I've spoken to people about it on this podcast before, about the whole university versus career, I guess, or
just going straight into it.
It's difficult because I guess it depends on what you do, really. Although that said, I always say with music industry, if I was to advise someone, I'd probably just say get in early as possible.
Yeah.
Right? However, I actually learned, contrary to popular belief, I learned quite a bit in my course, and actually it paved the way for me to do what I ended up doing. But do you know what I mean? It's kind of, if you were to advise someone, would you say, definitely go and do that degree?
I tell you what, I would. Well, no, do you know, first and foremost, I massively admire, I'm going to be a bit self-depreciating here, I massively admire people that just got on with it and went in and did it. The university thing was more, I wanted to do university. I liked it. I was a late developer, mate, in a number of ways, particularly mentally. I was like, I had no real clue about women. Some of my mates will laugh about this and say, I was a late developer. I was just like, still kicking the ball and climbing trees when like everyone else was doing other stuff. And so I kind of just wanted to stay younger for longer. So I thought, going to university, and if we can do something in music, that'd be great. The people who just get on and do it, that's great. That's proper entrepreneurial thinking and just getting at it. I never had that way of thinking, Dan. It was never me sort of path in my own personal head. So my advice would be, if you want to work in music, it certainly wouldn't be that don't go to university. It'd be, get in any way you like. If you want to go to uni, do it. If you don't and get in, because you will get in. It's all about having the mindset to get in. And
it's funny, like I kind of agree in as much as I wanted to go to uni because I wanted to go to uni. It just so happened that I did a music course.
Yeah.
That's sort of the reason. It was like the added bonus.
Yeah.
And so whilst I knew that was the path I wanted to go down, like you, I wanted to stay young. I don't want to do the rest of it.
I'd go to uni again, mate. I'd go to uni tomorrow. I've got a wife and kid. They might say something.
Okay, so let's get into the career then. 99, you get your BA in music industry management. And
2-2.
Did you get 2-2?
Got a 2-2 there.
I won't talk about mine.
That's not a great degree, a 2-2, Dan.
So you obviously had this work experience thing that you mentioned. Well,
the interesting thing, the good little crossover there was the label within Sony S2 at the time. It's long gone, God bless it. They were using a promo company at the time called Anglo Plugging to do various to promote at radio various artists on that label. And no, I was really gutted I didn't get the graduate program, but I think essentially what happened, Dan, is through my work experience for 2 years, which wasn't ever intended, I basically done the graduate program whilst I was still in uni in terms of the things I was doing. So literally one of the ladies, Catherine Craddock, her name was, still friends of hers, and she now works at BIM, or did, or I think she still does. She was like, look, I've put your name forward for this promo job at Anglo Plugging, one of the best radio companies in the UK. I went, all right. Well, Dan, I would have done anything at the time. It was just being in the music industry, in them words.
Yeah.
And I was essentially the mail-out kid for mailing out like Oasis and Primal Scream, loads of the Creation record stuff, and then Depeche Mode and U2 and all this, and tons of other stuff to like radio programmers from Radio 1 to all across the regions. And that was a real sort of learning curve. And then in terms of how that career developed within that building, that was owned by a gentleman called Gary Blackburn, who I still see as a real influential figure on me. And, you know, I still consider him a friend. I've not seen him for a while. He's, you know, he started managing Fatboy Slim.
Yeah.
And I think he was the owner of Anglo Plugin, but I think when he started managing Fatboy, this whole Fatboy Slim thing blew big, and it blew quick as well. And then he took on, I started working for Fatboy's label for a brief period called Southern Fried, which is just a little tiny independent imprint at the time. And then he took on Darren Emerson, who's a very dear friend of mine still. And Darren had just left Underworld and started a label called Underwater. I'll never forget this. I think Gary was assistant. This is a brilliant one. He said to me, "Are you free next week?" And I went, "Free for what?" And he went, "Are you just free next week?" And they had me passport details in the business because I was employed there. And I went, "Yeah." I went, "Right, okay." And the next morning, Gary walks past. He's threw these flight tickets on my desk. He was, "Right, you're meeting Darren in Denver tomorrow. Learn to tour manage." I went, "What?" And then his assistant, Bally, gave me this like 4 or 5 date tour sheet of where he was playing.
Mad.
So the next morning I'm on a flight to Denver to meet Darren Emerson to join him halfway through his US tour. And I learnt a lot in that 10 days.
Amazing. Okay, so you talk about Anglo plugging, which became Anglo Management.
Well, yeah, Anglo Plugin and Management were all under the Anglo Plugin umbrella. It was, yeah, I think the plugin thing started first, and then I think they developed into management.
And label manager of Underwater Records. And
I became that after that time with Darren. So Underwater was Daz's own label that he'd sort of restarted again, and Darren was a big deal at the time. He still is in terms of, you know, he's still a great artist and a great DJ, but at that time he was hot because he'd just left Underworld, and Underworld were massive, and they just had the album out, Bucoup Fish, which Darren had co-produced, and it couldn't have been bigger. And it was one of them perfect storms. It was like, this is huge. And his label was huge in terms of, in an independent way. We won DJ Mag Label of the Year. We had the big Tim Deluxe record. We had a fantastic album by Gus Gus at the time, which did really well with a track called David, and a number of other fantastic club records that smashed it. And it was 4 brilliant years. But like all good things, Dan, they sort of fizzle out for one way or another. I mean, that's a whole other story. But it was a beautiful, beautiful time and a real monumental learning curve in my life.
So I guess from here then is when you moved to Ministry of Sound. As head.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going there. So head of specialist comps. How did you get your job at Ministry?
I remember after I left Underwater, which was then Gary Blackburn had long left the sort of camp at that point, and it was run by Amy Thompson, who was a big manager in the game. And, you know, she was married to Darren at the time, or was. And a pivotal part of all that's part of the world. And Amy went on to do some massive, massive things, still is. And I think she spoke to a guy called Steve Canuetto at Ministry.
Yeah, okay.
And because I was like, I just don't know what to do. But I knew I had to leave at that point. It was just one of them things. It was circumstantial. It was not like no one had done anything bad to each other. It was time to finish. It was a bit of a storm. And I had no idea what to do. And Steve Canuetto invited me in for a chat. And that was that, really. And then I just got offered this role of being... I was quite a snobbish little sod in terms of I didn't want to wear clubbers guides or these big TV advertised things. It wasn't really
all the cheesy stuff.
Yeah, but like, no disrespect, they smashed it with them. And
that's what made the money.
Yeah. And that's why big pop records still make money, or big pop dance records make money. Unfortunately, I went down the let's not make any money route, which was maybe a bit of a wrong, bit of a cul-de-sac. But I ended up doing this is when CDs were selling. So I remember working on the non-TV advertised comps, which for those out there who don't know what they were DJ mix albums that weren't advertised on television.
Yeah, because they basically they were targeted at niche audiences, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And you know, but it was a glory. I mean, geez, Dan, I remember like I remember signing. I had a serious run because at the time, Ministry was Ministry was always a bit of a conundrum. And I say this positively because it was always a battle I was having with Lohan, and the club team had it with Lohan as well. I love Lohan. Hi, Lohan. And he was like, obviously they needed to make a shed load of money, but Ministry was also a club as well. But sometimes you'd have like these massive selling dance albums with quite commercial dance music on, jarring with a club that was, to be fair to the club team, booking some fantastic underground artists from globally. I mean, Ministry of Sound, I still say it myself, one of, if not the best sound system in a club in the world. It certainly was at the time, and I've not been for a while. So my little role was, I guess, in terms of the recording business, was to try and keep a bit of a balance, dare I say, of coolness or link to the club.
I always think credibility is the word.
Yeah.
Because Ministry typically as a dance brand had that cool credibility, and where they ventured into with the comp space, and I guess I don't want to say chasing money, but driving revenue, and the compilations were a big part, the main part of that. They had to do that, really. And I guess, but the specialist TV, that's what brought the balance. The specialist was more in line with what they were doing in the club world, right?
Yeah, absolutely that. And quite often we'd try and get artists who were quite relevant in the club space, or who had played the club regularly. But I remember it was a beautiful period of time. Some of the artists we were like Francois K, Derek Carter, DJ Sneak. I remember signing the Swedes, really. I mean, they were moving, they were pumping, but I remember signing Steve Angelo, Sebastian Ingrosso, and Axwell all to compilation albums individually. And it was like mad. It was like, and I remember signing David Guetta really early on when he was doing his Fuck Me and Famous album, where he wasn't really I'm certainly not saying I discovered David Guetta, I definitely didn't, but I remember having a very funny chat about why we should sign his first mix album, which got me in a lot of trouble, but then absolutely smashed it. Yeah,
okay. So you were at Ministry for 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Ministry's a special place. Oh, I mean, to be honest, first thing I should say.
That's where I met you, Dan.
That is where I met you. And what's love the Ministry crew. There's so many of them that have come on here, and there'll be more to come. But what's funny is when I started out as an intern at Ministry, and this is 2008, you were quite a big deal around the office.
That definitely wasn't.
No, this is fact. Because I remember when I was young, some people wanted to be policemen, firemen. I wanted to be Matt Stuart.
Oh my God.
How mad is that?
I'm quoting this.
How mad is that?
You was the only one who said that.
You used to walk around the office and you'd be the guy, you were the joker of the pack, weren't you?
God.
Going around to the different departments, making people laugh. And I thought, that's what I want to do. Guess what? That's what I did.
You did.
I got there eventually.
You did, Danny boy. Look at you now. Let's look at your studio.
It's beautiful. But yeah,
that's very kind. Thank you. I don't lay claim to that, but thank you very much. That's a lovely thing to say.
It definitely happened, and there was just a thing you commanded. I don't know what, this attention in a way that I loved. Basically, now whether you wanted to or not, you definitely wanted to. It was amazing. And
so that's having a good laugh though, isn't it?
100%.
Half the reason you joined the music biz, not to be super serious and be like, oh God, I want to be really serious.
No.
Let's make some serious music.
No, that's why I'm doing this podcast, is to get away from the seriousness, actually.
It's like, you joining the music biz.
The music business has got a tendency to be up its own arse sometimes, right? And I think it's not like that. There's a lot of good people, a lot of people just want to have a little fun. Yeah. And ultimately, when I saw you doing what you did, I was just like, it put a smile on your face. Yeah, when people have got to deal with sometimes going into a job where they're not 100% happy, they're the things that make you want to work there. And actually with Ministry, I always say, like, it was fucking tough working there sometimes.
It was
tough. To drive you up the fucking wall. But it was a magical place to work.
It was, because the people were fantastic. And but it was a very tough environment because of kind of how it was, how the nature of the business was sort of, how do I put this without getting myself in trouble? It was just quite tough. And people had expectations. And if you didn't meet the expectations, it's like, oh, what's going on? It was one of them. But I was, for those people out there, if you're watching or listening, who left the Ministry on your own terms,
thank you,
without being sacked,
thank you,
or made redundant, I salute you.
Yeah, thanks.
For those who got sacked or made redundant, I salute you too, but I'm laughing at you. I'm joking because everyone gets sacked from ministry. So if you're one of the few people that didn't,
thank you.
Well, no, because most people, it was time for a clear out and be like, right, you're gone. So
every
I
6
probably
months, wasn't it?
Out my 4 years, I probably had 3.5 great years, and the last 6 months, I remember thinking, I've stopped having as much fun as I should now, and it's time for me to move on.
Yeah. And so I guess with that, I mean, whilst you're doing your thing at ministry, you've also set up your own label called Gungho, right? Yeah,
completely. Well, that was totally inspired by working with Darren. I loved what he and we and the wider team had built with Underwater, and I kind of missed that little thing. So we started a label on the side called Gungho, and it went. Do you know what? To be fair, we had a good run, and we considered it was just me. Say we, there was a couple of Sean Robinson was part of it for a brief period. Very good lad.
Yeah.
And we did 86 releases and 10 albums, but ultimately, just like most labels, it just got me in shitloads of debt, Dan.
Yeah.
Like because during that period, that's quite poignant. You bring this up actually. During that period is when everything went very quickly digital. Away from the physical space, something which you know about a few years later.
Yeah.
And it was like, whoa, the business has changed almost overnight. It was like really, because it all gone to iTunes and Beatport and downloads, which is great, by the way, but the vinyl thing had started to fall away a bit. It's come back now in many different ways, but back then it was like, shit, this is a real fall off.
Yeah.
And I was never particularly that great business minded. So I probably ran it a bit too long. But during that period, I signed an act called the Japanese Pop Stars, and I sort of technically started managing them and realised I released the first album through my label, but then things were going really, really well, and I got them a decent agent, and we started touring the world and that, and then I realised management, I think I get this, I think I've got the chops for this, and then I got them a record deal at then Virgin Records and a publishing deal at then EMI, and it was suddenly like, oh yeah, this is fun. And so most other people would bank their money and, do sensible things with it. Because I was a bit of a man-child, I spent it on a muscle car.
Yeah, quality. I remember, actually.
I imported a Trans Am from America from the 70s, and probably shouldn't have done
that. Okay, and so then, I don't know whether this must have been during the Gungho period. There's this artist management thing where you're working at ATM 360 ATC.
Yeah, well, what happened then, Dan, just to keep it brief, is after once I started managing the Japanese Pop Stars, and my mind was shifting towards management then. Gungho was very much, it was still ultimately only ever meant to be a side hustle. It was always meant to really be but then it became a bit bigger. But then when it started getting tough again, I started working at ATM with Amy Thompson again for a brief period.
This is Swedish House Mafia, Amy Thompson.
Yeah, that's her, the one and only. And I definitely didn't work then, but I worked in there. Basically, she very kindly gave me an office space, and I still ran my business for her, but I helped her out on a couple of artists, did a few bits and bobs with Groove Armada and stuff at the time, and it was fun. It was an interesting period, and once again, I met some great people on the way. After that, I got offered to join 360, which was really having a moment at the time. That was over with Mark Gillespie and Dean Wilson. That's all kind of changed now, but I had 3 good years there, 3 interesting years, and that was when I started. I mean, I'd been working with Shadow Child for a good year or so, maybe longer, but I just started developing artists through there, and it was an interesting time. It felt like quite Hollywood in London at the time. We had a super swanky office, and it was owned by Rock Nation, and it was all very, it was an interesting time.
Okay, so my first question, what does an artist manager actually do?
Good question. Jesus. Either nothing or everything, depending on what kind of manager you are. An artist manager ultimately, I think probably should be the central fulcrum to help, I've used that term before, central fulcrum to help an artist develop their career from grassroots to hopefully achieving a long career where music, they make their money by making and playing music, and they don't need to have secondary jobs to do that. It's growing something from absolutely nothing to the type of business that they want their music career to be. which is so wide. I don't think I've answered that question very well, Dan, but it's essentially managing the artist's career, getting the best out of them, getting them to do what they want to do, and getting them to make a long-lasting career out of it.
If I'm an artist, at what point do I decide I need an artist manager?
I sort of asked the question the other way around. A manager needs something to manage. So I've had it many times, I'm sure most managers have, people are looking for a manager. I'm like, what do you need? Like, oh, just, I need to get the next level up. Why, what have you got? Oh, I've made 2 tracks. What are you talking about, mate? Like, go through the trenches a little bit yourself first, and when there's something to manage, when there's something to get my teeth stuck into.
So an artist manager comes in to build upon the foundations.
Yeah, I mean, I think an artist has to have some level of foundation themselves. I think there has to be that little grit, that little bit of vision. All the greats have had a vision, Dan. One mistake I've made a number of times in my career is working perhaps with people who don't have that vision. They may be fantastic musically. They may be amazing producers. They may be amazing writers, amazing singers, whatever. But if you don't have that intrinsic vision of what they want to be, that's half the battle, mate. And we as managers, most of us are, we've got creative thinking and, can be quite dynamic at times. But if the artists themselves don't know what they want to be, and I've learned the hard way this, it's very, very hard to make it work.
Yeah. How do you get paid as an artist manager?
I don't know. Can someone tell me? Okay, so...
Are you on a salary?
Joking aside, no, absolutely not on a salary. I guess there's some models that there are. I guess if you're working for...
Management company.
When I've worked for a management company before, I've been on a wage against commission, so you get front of the wage, and then what commissions you make go against that wage, and if it goes over and above that wage, you then split between you and the company, X amount, whatever your deal is. I've been self-employed for many years now. I was self-employed when I worked with ATC. I wasn't on a wage there. I kind of eat what I kill. The way that we get paid is...
Explain eat what I kill.
So I get paid off the money I make straight away off an artist. I don't if I've made no deals or got no on a remix or got no on a gig or
you go hungry.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm trying to think of a better phrase, but I can't. So we eat what we kill. Most managers in who work for themselves will know what I'm talking about. Brains definitely will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
So essentially, the way we get paid, or the way I get paid, is I have this very I think fair way of... I think back in the day, Dan, the reason I do it this way is back in the day, artist managers would get the money in and then they would divvy the money out back to the artists, and quite often that's how artists would get screwed. If you look back, it's many stories in the 50s and 60s of artists getting done over by the management. I think that's because management could put all kinds of costs and squirrel away stuff and da-da-da. This day and age, because that's a story well told now, I think a lot of us managers are very conscious of that, so we want fairness for ourselves and them. I get my artists paid. It's a cyclical thing. I chase and try and make money for my artists, get them paid, and then I invoice the artist pays me. Right. So chase the money for your artists, make the money for your artists, get the money from your artists. So that's when that's how we work. So we never, myself and my business partner Walter, we never ever take the artist money from a tour or anything like that, or a record deal, into our accounts. It goes straight to the artist, and then we commission from them.
Is that the normal approach?
It's a normal approach. It's definitely not the only way. I mean, there's many straight up ways of doing it where it does come into the artist's account.
Right.
So it does come into the management account, and then the management pays out to the artist. That's fine. It all depends on, I guess, the nature of your business and how you want to do it. I just think for me, it's sort of cleaner that way, because it can never be questioned on, why have you taken this? Yeah. Because I hate awkward conversations like that.
Okay. You mentioned, my next question is about a mentor. Like, whilst you're an idol of mine when I started in the industry, do you have a mentor in music, or particularly artist management? You touched on Gary Blackburn.
Yeah, he was
was there anyone else, or was he the one?
No, there's been a couple of people. I remember before Gary, there was a chap called Lincoln Elias, which a few people may know, and Lincoln was a legend. He lives in Marlow, actually.
Oh, okay.
And he was at S2. He was the A&R guy for Sony. It was Muff Winwood's label. Muff was famous for being in the Spencer Davis group, but then he ended up running parts of Sony. And Lincoln had signed all these amazing artists like Jamiroquai and 10 Strength D'Arby and tons of others. And I'll never forget, like, first couple of weeks in this massive record label, and Lincoln comes and goes, because randomly he's an Everton fan, which is brilliant. And he went, come on, let's go for lunch. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going for lunch with this A&R guy. And it just felt like Hollywood's here. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
And he took me we went to Bar Italia randomly for a coffee, and I walked in there, and there was Paul Weller just reading the paper, having a fag. I'm just like, what the fuck? I have arrived in London. There's the mod father. There's fucking Paul Weller having a fag and a coffee, reading the paper. And he just like nodded his head like, oh, this is just... I mean, I do most of my meetings now from Bar Italia in the hope of seeing Paul Weller again.
Quality. Okay, so...
But Lincoln was a big one for me. Gary Black was a big one for me. I had an opportunity when things diverged. I could have stuck with Gary or went the other way. Sometimes I wonder if I should have stuck with Gary.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how much it meant to me. I really must see him. But, yeah.
Okay. The role of artist management, we were talking before, and obviously it's everything. The music industry has changed a lot in the last 10, 5, 2 years. And so with that, artist management has... How do you sort of view the way that in which the role of artist management has changed, especially with the rise of things like social platforms?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, I think, Dan, you can't know everything. None of us can. I certainly can't. But there's so much more to know now with the different platforms and the different ways of doing things. There's always a new technology or a new something popping up.
Yeah.
But a while ago, it was just one thing would pop up, and now there's all kinds of stuff. And it's usually so data-driven that it's such an important part of the game now, but it can be very dull to constantly try and stay on top of all that. So I don't. I stay on top of some of it. I stay on top of the stuff that I think I need to stay on top of, but a lot of it is just fluff, and it can really detract you away from the core project, the core goal of building an artist's career and getting the best out of that artist. Because I fundamentally believe that I think the cream rises to the top eventually. There's just a lot more barriers now because, quite simply, there's just loads more music. Yeah. The best thing about the internet is that anyone can release music now. The worst thing about the internet in terms of music is that anyone can release music now. Yeah. It's just so vast to cut through. The cutting through is the hard bit now. So in terms of a manager's job, whereas perhaps in the day it might have been a bit easier, our job of cutting an artist through just to get to that point where they're actually noticed has become so much more part of it and intrinsic to an artist-manager relationship. Back in the day, a major label would help break an artist that doesn't really have, or certainly develop an artist. They want us to develop the artist now. I'm sure a few people would say that. And then when it's at a certain point, they'll go, right, yeah, we'll take it.
So with that, I mean, and like we're talking about the changes that have come within the industry. How do you see the relationship between labels and artist management changing or evolving?
I think it's the same with any relationship, Dan, really. Some can be good, some can be bad. I think music industry's always been a people game. So if you get on with people, ultimately it's sound. Most people in music, I think, are good people. There's a lot of bellends, though. You got to steer clear of them, mate. It's like whack-a-mole. Knock one down, another fucker pops up.
Yeah.
They're only ain't our lot.
Yeah. So, like, I guess what I'm really getting at is the record labels, and particularly major record labels, are under a lot of scrutiny at the moment. There's a lot of talk out there about majors losing their power because the power's sort of been taken out of their hands. There's less control for them to have. If you're an artist manager with your artist, is it worth signing a record deal anymore?
Yeah, I think every single artist and every single goal of theirs is completely different. I'll make this really clear. Majors get a big kicking all the time. I've kicked them myself a number of times, but ultimately, it's a fantastic beast when it works for you. There's the art of the art of being a record label. The art of the record label is such an important thing when done right, and it's brilliant. Anyone can run a record label, but no one can really run a proper record label because it can work. It can be a brilliant thing. The majors are in. It's not just about majors, big indies, everyone. Yeah. There's a number of different ways to release your music now, as we all know. Everyone knows you can have artist services deals, label services deals, where you're not signing your rights away. Ultimately, it's what suits the particular artist. Like, most of my clients would probably not be major label minded. I have a couple that definitely are, but most would not necessarily be major label minded.
So let's talk about Spotify then, or at least streaming.
Yeah.
I think one of the whilst Spotify and the streaming platforms have become the kind essential for music distribution.
Yeah.
A lot of artists struggle with the low payouts from these services.
And managers.
Well, as a manager, how do you navigate that challenge?
That's a tough one. I think that's where, as an artist, I've had this chat with a number of my artists now. You can't just rely on Spotify, and anyone who does rely on Spotify, you're barking up the wrong tree. Unless you are just one of them kind of artists that is purely stream focused, and you don't play live, and you don't have merch, and that might work for some people. But you've got to build your business elsewhere. You have to have you don't have to, but if you're a performer, you should build the best live business you can, build the best merch business you can, build your best socials you can. Build your audience is the most important thing. My business partner Walt would say the same thing. Owning your own audience, having your own, as basic as it sounds, mailing list. People that you can reach and will buy the thing for you straight away. That you put on your mailing list or whatever. Having that data that's yours is so key. I used to get really bored by the word data. I still do, but Christ, I understand the importance of it now. Like, I really do. Like, owning that data, I mean.
And another thing that's being spoken about a lot is owning your audience effectively.
Massively.
That's, mailing list or
But that's what it should be done, and that's what it should have been. This is why I think people got a bit, I think we all got a bit, we all went along for the Spotify ride, and Spotify's only doing its thing. It's done some great things for me. It really has. It's massively helped my bands. It's helped one of my artists get a decent record deal. It's actually helped a couple of my artists get a decent record deal. So it's not a bad thing. The payment structure is bad. I fundamentally agree that artists should be paid better, because then everyone gets paid better. And I think there's a healthier space for that. I'm not picking holes in it too much, but you can't just rely on streaming, Dan. I think the thing that bugs me about, hello Spotify people, the few ones I know now who'll actually answer a call of mine, is that it's a people game, ultimately, the music industry. Always has been. That's what I still kind of rely on and thrive on, sort of, and I really respect it and admire it. When you sort of can't speak to these platforms, and it's always been hard speaking to the right people at Radio 1 or this or that, but you can sort of get through if you try, and you can sort of make relationships and build relationships. With the sort of DSPs, I won't just say Spotify, it's a lot harder these days, because they're kind of like mythical beings who pick the playlist, but I don't even think many people do that anymore. I think it's gone quite AI. Or certainly algorithmic based rather than AI. Sorry.
So I guess you spoke about there owning your audience. Aside from that, like, do you have kind of strategies for helping artists build sustainable careers?
Yeah, I mean, that's what we try to do. I mean, we only try and take on artists that we see who have a vision that we feel do have sustainable careers. What I've done recently a couple of times is, I've probably been a bit too loyal in my time, Dan. I've probably stuck in too long with certain artists, and that's not. I don't know. Is that a bad thing? Maybe it is probably a bad thing for me, because sometimes it's just not working. Sometimes the relationship doesn't work. Sometimes the relationship can not be very nice, and that's something that we happened recently. And me and Walt were like, we got to let this one go. Like, this is not healthy, and we cut that one very quick. Which is real sad, because it's not what we do. Yeah. But we, just the way that he spoke to us. I won't stand being spoke to like shit, and I don't think anyone should in this day and age.
No, absolutely not. But but going back to the question then, like, aside from building audiences, or sorry, not building audience, I guess it is, but owning your own audience. How else do you kind of?
Ultimately, there's two sides to it, right? In my opinion, you've got the core product side, which is the music, right? That's like cement or coal. It's a commodity, water, whatever. It's the thing you're trading in. Is the commodity is music. That's just one part of it. It used to be the main part. It still should be the main part. So I'm just saying that clearly. Music is always the main part, because it's the commodity. But what you'll notice over the years, sometimes terrible music cuts through better than the best music, because the other side of it, which is the building of the aesthetic, the marketing, the building of the audience, the gimmick, whatever it is, the connection to the audience, that can grow really big with an artist and doesn't have to necessarily be the best song. Dan, you could deliver me now Sgt. Pepper's Part 2 and be like, dude, I'd be like, mate, this is genius. And we could put it out and it took about 4 streams.
Yeah.
And so many amazing, probably some of the best songs we've ever heard, or probably some of the best songs out there we've never heard, because they've just fallen into nothingness of the abyss, because the rest of it hasn't been built. So we try and really make sure artists cover all the bases and developing all sides of their career. There's a big thing with TikTok's always a funny one, because quite a lot of artists are very comfortable with that. Quite a lot of artists that I work with find it a bit of a chore and find it a bit tacky. But I firmly say it's not a bad platform if you do it on your terms. You know, you do it on the terms that you feel comfortable. Don't dance around with a cat or whatever on your head. Do something that, post a video of you doing what you like to do that you would post on Instagram Reels or something. That's probably, someone say, oh no, you shouldn't post the same thing. Whatever, fuck it, do what the fuck you like. Just use the platform as it suits you. Yeah. But don't just be a ghost on it, because it's very hard, without promotion of any way, it's very hard to break anything these days.
So there's a couple of more questions I've got before we end.
Sure.
The one is sort of, with the experience that you've got, whether that's working at record labels or in artist management companies, like, what is the kind of the one thing that you learn if you're advising someone that's coming into the industry, or an artist for that matter? What is the key thing that you would advise them to do?
I think the main thing, Dan, the thing that anything rests on from an artist's point of view is, and I'm jumping back because I said it before, they've got to have that natural vision. Yeah, they've got to know what one of the questions that my business partner asks, Walt, he always says, what's the end goal? Like, what you see 20 years in or 10 years in, what's the stage? Literally as basic as that. Yeah. What stage are you on? What's your line up? Where's your record gone? Who's buying your record? And we ask artists these questions. I never used to do it, but what it does is it susses out who's got the visions and not. Yeah. And an artist having their own vision is so key, because we can't make that happen. And ultimately, I think the public smell through it, because that's manufactured then. If you don't get me wrong, you can help them refine their vision and get to it, and and let's get to it this way, and let's not hit that kind of press. Let's hit these kind of people over here. There's ways you can get the message across. But if an artist doesn't have a vision, but can be the best producer or band or whatever, if they don't have the vision, man, you're on an uphill struggle already. Yeah. Honestly, I couldn't. I'll double down on that. If you're an artist out there listening to this, have your vision. Because if you don't have it, mate, no one should be able to create that for you unless you're a manufactured boy band or girl band or whatever.
Okay, have your vision. Okay, final question. The state of the music industry now. There is a lot, I keep saying this, there is a lot of negative chat about the music industry at the moment, whether that is because of disruptive technology and the impact of that, or the fact that, you know, at the moment you've got 125,000 tracks being uploaded to Spotify every single day.
Every day.
Right. Or, you know, like I've said already, there's a lot of people talking about the power of the record labels now, and the how there's a shift. What are your thoughts on the state of the music industry right now?
I think we're all collectively, from artists to managers to promoters to agents to DSPs to majors to indies to whoever, distribution companies, we're all in the same boat. We're all peddling in the same commodity, music. It's tough, but Dan, there's never been a guarantee in this game because it's subjective.
Yeah.
And the thing is, mate, I love a moan. Anyone who knows me, I love a moan.
Champion, yeah.
But I'm an A-list moaner, but I try and do it try and have a laugh with it as well, because the music industry is a lot of fun as well. Yeah. And it's just, I think the problem is I think to answer it very quickly, Dan, I think you've hit the nail on the head. There's 125,000 tracks being released a day globally. So whereas back in the day, whether you're a label or a manager or whatever, there were certain barriers to entry. So you'd have a smaller pool of artists to pick from, because there'd be some level of gatekeeper A&R saying, actually, you've got to do this. And if you couldn't do that, then you wouldn't get in. Like release a record, or you had to press a record yourself and put it in the shops and da-da-da. And if you could do that, you might take off. And a lot of people couldn't do that. They couldn't afford to do that. There's ways and means, of course. But 125,000 tracks a day. Imagine that, Dan. That's 125,000, say they're individual people, like, chucking that message on their Instagrams and the Twitters and the Spotifys and this, that, and the fucking everything, you know, on the TikToks. It's not just 125,000 tracks a day. It's 125,000 messages a day on all these other platforms. Magnify that. Yeah. You're talking millions of noise being thrown at you. And I think that's the big problem we're all having.
No barrier to entry is I think is one of the problems. With that, because like you said, when you go back to the retailers, the Asdas, the Morrisons, the HMVs, that day, you were fighting for shelf space. And now you don't have to fight for that. And you know what we're talking about being 125,000 tracks a day now, that's about to get a whole lot worse. We're talking about it doubling, tripling, quadrupling with the rise of AI technology. So
I mean that's a whole other meeting, that one, and that's a whole other. The whole AI one, I think, is an interesting one. I'm not going to get into that now because that frightens the shit out of me. I'm going to need another beer for that one. But I think that it's the sheer volume, Dan, because back in the day, I would love to see how many records were kicking about or being released via distribution platforms in the mid-90s compared to now. Yeah. Because it was very much a physical market then, which meant there were barriers because you had to actually manufacture stuff, which meant there was a bit of a cost to entry to a point, whether that be the label's cost or the artist's cost or an independent label's cost. There were barriers to entry with that. Yeah. Now you don't have that. And I've said from day one, I've said this before, I think on this podcast here, one of the great things nowadays is that anyone can release music. Everyone's got, it's amazing. How beautiful is that? Anyone can release music. One of the worst things is that anyone can release music.
Yeah, totally. No, that is, and that's a good way to end, basically. So there's a great chat there and some really interesting things we've touched on, and I'm keen to get more people on this podcast from the artist management world because it's different to what we normally do. We're always talking to the people within the record labels who have worked with record labels. So Matt Stuart, you know you're a legend in my eyes.
Stop.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.